let's talk about the next one. And Justin talked about this a little bit already because they're so tied together, and that is the nervous system. The nervous system is a relatively new discovery for human beings. To understand what it is, what its function. At its core, it is the will to live. It is just this inexplicable energy and power to stay alive. And it's built on very simple rules. And it doesn't speak English, okay? It doesn't have language. It operates purely on reactionary sensation and pattern developments. And it's interesting, as human beings have developed, our external threats have gone down and down and down, but our existential threats have been increased. It's almost like we weren't willing to let life become more convenient. Like, wow, we have more stuff that does stuff for us than ever before, but we have to be doing more than we ever have before. What an interesting zero-sum game that we find ourselves in. That we find things that take stuff off our plate, but then we create a bigger plate and put even more stuff on it. A lot of that comes down to the nervous system. It spent most of our evolutionary existence as human beings where the ceiling was, did we die today? No. Yes. Huge victory. The ultimate victory was being able to go to sleep because you didn't die. And now we are in this hockey stick curve. We are in this exponential growth of, in some regards, convenience, but that's what's breeding consciousness. That's what's going to change the way we experience ourselves internally, externally, the way we understand our existence with and without words. And of course, the way we coexist. And the nervous system is a central factor in this, because while it was built for a time that most of us in the world don't live in anymore, it is still a passage that we pass through, and it is a mechanism that we will want to learn to honor, or it will continue to pull us back to prehistoric conditions in our own life. We will continue to see Facebook comments like a saber-toothed tiger. We will continue to seek desperate support from the tribe and acceptance in social circles and other things the same way we would trying to stay alive. It has magnified the impact of trauma and shame and attachment wounds when life was much simpler, because we are violating the basic principles of the nervous system. And one of the primary ones is to actually feel. Most of us have lost the ability to actually feel. We feel a lot of things, but to actually feel your nervous system, most of us have become head-brain dominant. Those of you who have heard me talk before about the whole body mindset. We've got a head mind, the thinker mind, if you will, the heart mind, and the gut mind, both in location and in neurological impact in the brain. We have found out that the brain is not this unbelievable salient master computer all on its own. In fact, it gets a lot more of its information, its orders, its direction from the body. And yet in this technological age, we have gotten further and further away from our body and from our nervous system, and we are paying an incredible price for it. Looking at mental health, looking at the state of how we interact with each other on social topics and justice and politics and everything. It's wild out there what happens when you violate the nervous system of a human being. So there are lots of ways to address this. And it has been incredibly difficult in the work that I do, the work that Justin does, to teach people to honor their nervous system, because it's so against the grain of society. It can look lazy. It can look irresponsible. It is an unbelievably courageous thing to do. And it's been against the grain for a lot of years, but with what's happening in the world and what's coming, the ability to regulate one's nervous system will likely be one of the greatest skills that a human being, one of the most valuable skills that a human being can possess. So it's time to learn this. It's time to institute this into, whether you're working with executives in tech companies, as in their leadership culture or their sales processes, or you're working with couples that aren't quite sure they're going to be able to stay together, or everything in between, you're going to want to understand the nervous system and how to actually feel. Just a little simple, for the sake of time, just to kind of take you through just a little visual here in terms of actually feeling. Most of us experience our lives through stories, okay, versus sensations. Now, it doesn't mean the stories don't matter, but much of personal development and even much of therapy has been about rewriting the story, but on a superficial cognitive level. Where we get the ink for the pen is from the nervous system. It's the sensation. It's being able to actually feel it. Most of us, when we have a sensation, we tell ourselves a story about it immediately. And sometimes that's all we do because there's a catharsis. We stand up, we get a sensation of being really lightheaded. We tell ourselves a story that we just stood up too fast, and we go, oh, okay, we're good. No problem. Okay. And then we get a reaction to the story. And then we find a solution. We need to fix it, get rid of it, change it, whatever. I'm feeling this emotion. This is a threat. This is bad. We've got to get rid of this. And we halt its natural transitory process that Justin was talking about. It is clouds moving through in the sky. If you go out today and look at it right now and look at the clouds and then go back an hour later, it looks totally different. Same thing with our emotions. But they've got incredible things to share with us, but they don't share with us in the way that our cognition actually translates the stories and the belief systems as far as the outcomes that have already been created. If we want to go rewrite those, we're going to want to break this cycle of having a sensation and opting for a story first so that we can solve it, fix it, change it, and get rid of it. We're going to want to be able to understand something that could change your life forever, where when you have a sensation, you can actually learn to feel it. This requires presence and noticing and tracking and being able to get still and slow. And everybody does this differently. This involves the support and the aid of breath and movement and sound. And I mean unconventional, not just going to the gym and working out, but unconventional movement and sound, like the way that when an animal gets charged up with a sensation and is seeking and looking for a threat, or looking to run away, and then suddenly realizes it's okay. It goes through unconventional movements and sounds. And then it's totally fine. But we could never do that. That's socially unacceptable. We'd rather opt for the story. We'd rather opt for the unbelievable amount of input and distorted perspective on this world rather than actually be able to feel it. When we learn how to actually feel, you don't need to think about how to release it. You don't need to, Justin, I'm sure you can. The idea of letting something go, if we could get rid of that, as far as the expectation, if we can recreate what that means, you just got to let it go. And you just got to meditate, and then you'll let it go. The only way to let go something in your nervous system is to actually go and touch the nerve, to actually go feel it. And then your body can release it. It's like, oh, good. We actually felt it. Your body knows how to get rid of this. Your body knows how to release this stuff if you actually feel it. There's a tempo, there's a titration to that is very important that we'll teach you how to do. There's technology to your body, to feeling. What's beautiful is when you do that, it takes care of the rest on its own. Just like if you understand how to feed yourself properly, your body will take care of the rest. It'll digest it. It'll absorb the nutrients. It'll get rid of the waste. You can certainly frustrate the process, which we've been doing in our minds, in our cognitions, in our nervous systems. And when that happens, transformation can actually occur. And it feels slow. Just like if we were racing the person with a slingshot, they got out ahead and we could be like, oh no, they're winning. Because we're just slowly pulling back, slowly pulling back, slowly pulling back, actually getting oriented with ourself, oriented with our nervous system where we actually are. And then we release. And suddenly now we're the tortoise, where nobody wants to be the tortoise until the finish line. The finish line. And the finish line is getting closer and closer with the changes in the world. It's going to become more and more obvious the way we have been doing many things, from coaching, transformation, personal development, therapy, was the best with what we had. So awesome. But we have more now. We have more, and it's time to upgrade.
Paul,
Now,
if I may add real quick before
please.
we go to self-deception, going back to the emotions, the feeling, it's more than just a word. It's more than just a physical sensation. It's a concept that our body experiences.
Mm,
It is really a concept. And so being able to identify those feelings, whether it is in your nervous system or is it within the story that you're telling and what you're experiencing, there's a lot of great tools out there that you and I have worked with on our clientele with to do that. And then also in the release, I think the most popular one in releasing is the visualization of letting it go, right?
yep.
Now, the visualization is only one of the six senses, I believe. So we really work through this process of, I love the shaking, man. Oh, like the science behind shaking, tapping, being able to feel that nerve system going through. The science behind that is emerging. It is so cool to be studied up on that. And for us to kind of get a glimpse of that just today and talking about that and talking about the impact that it can make for not
Yeah.
just our life, but our clients and their clients, that just gives me goosebumps. Yeah.
And there's a lot of these modalities that are incredible, but they're getting absorbed into our social agreements, are getting somewhere we think we want to be that is actually a mimetic distortion of what we actually want. Okay, Dr. Rene Girard wrote entire papers on how very few human beings are actually aware of what they actually want.
Yeah.
What they want is actually manufactured by their surroundings and their society, and being able to work through that. Interestingly, he said empathy is the key antidote to that in a conceptual, deep experience. But you talk about tapping, breath work, all of these things have burst on the scene, but they're getting absorbed by the old style of fix it, change it, get rid of it, and solve it mentality of the story. Now, the story is using those, just like the story uses dopamine and uses all these other chemicals and pharmaceuticals. It has its own pharmacy in the brain that you get to do something that makes you feel like you just made a big difference, like visualizing the release. But did you actually get the atomic energy that came from the trauma you experienced? The actual atomic energy in there, not some kind of woo-woo energy, chakra. These are all ways that mystical ancient civilizations have described what we now know and can measure. Were you able to actually release that energy? Because that's what keeps getting triggered. That's what keeps getting poked. It's not just a visualization. It's not just an idea. And those things can be fabulous portals, but there's more to it. So I want to give you guys something you can use. Okay, if you'll do this, you'll see a shift in your nervous system without even need to understand anything else. First thing you do when you wake up in the morning, have a full glass of water on your nightstand right there. And as soon as you get up, turn and put your feet flat on the ground and feel your feet on the floor. Feel that. And then reach and pay attention to your hand as it grasps. Do you know how much is involved in the grasping of a cup? And feel that cup. Notice the weight. Bring it to your mouth and see if you can track the sensation of the water going into your mouth, down your throat, and into your stomach. See if you can track that all the way down and drink that full glass of water. Then get up and go for a walk. Outside, preferably. But if all you can do is just walk around the island in your kitchen, that's fine too. Just for a few minutes. This is not your exercise. This is not your workout. Just go walk. Just go move the body and feel the feet on the ground. Feel the sway of the hands, as simple or as little as it might be. Outside, again, is ideal, but this only needs to be for a few minutes. Don't listen to anything, okay? Audible, audiobooks, whatever else. Just go walk and see how much sensation you can notice from the cup of water you drink, the walking that you did. And then after you've done that, 5-10 minutes of walking, go back inside or find some quiet place to sit down, set a timer for 5 minutes and just be still and just see what comes up. Just be the total observer. You're sitting in a movie theater of your existence and just being curious about what comes up. Well, Paul, I'm worried I'll fall asleep if I do that. Well, there might be some interesting information for you to learn from that. Well, my mind starts getting going because I feel like I should already be doing this and doing that, and I should start my regular morning routine. There's nothing, you can't do this wrong. Okay? Drink the glass of water consciously. Go for a walk consciously and then sit and just observe you and whatever is here this morning, which is usually not what you went to bed with, and just watch what starting your day that way does for your nervous system. And if you want an additional anchor, then later in the day, do another 5 minutes. Just still, eyes closed. If you're in a noisy place, that's fine. Okay, as a Zen master once told me, don't try to pretend there isn't noise. Hear the noise. Just don't tell yourself a story about where it's coming from. Okay, there's the stories again. So try that. Have your clients try that. I think there's something unbelievably pivotal about the mornings and our nervous system and our consciousness and our cognitive function. And if you'll consciously drink a glass of water, which involves so many senses when you do it the way that we were just describing, and go for a walk the way we were just describing, and then sit and just observe so that anything that's there is welcome to come up, even if it's your mind spinning and racing off. And do your very best if you can to not interrupt the 5 minutes. If you think of something you forgot and you want to write it down, don't. Just trust yourself. You've made it this far. You're going to be okay. You don't need to peak. I've done this so many times, and most times I'll sit there at some point and I'll start circling on, did I actually hit start on the timer? Did I actually hit start on the timer? But it's so interesting to observe what that feels like in me. And every time, yes, I hit start on the timer and I wait for it. So just observe and wait. And notice your thinker brain's going to wonder, like, is this making a difference? It's going to be evaluating, it's going to be judging. Just do this consistently. I promise you, your nervous system will be in a more powerful place to support you in the other things that you're doing, to the point that if you'll do it consistent enough, you may be like, I think it helps. I kind of like it. But if you stop doing it, you'll be like, whoa, okay, that's what that was doing. All right.